Hello, hello. Are we live? Not yet. Let me refresh. Okay. Is that better? All right, my mic is working too. So, welcome back to Advent of Syntran 2024. Today is day 19. So, haven't seen anything about today. Let me download the input. Okay. It's a bunch of random looking letters. Oh, hold on. We have two parts. So we have a blank line. We have one line with comma delimited words. Then we have a blank line. And then we have like longer strings with no commas. Are we like searching for substrings or doing compression or something? I have no idea. Let's read the puzzle in a second. I'm gonna get my test input ready. Let's check this out. Towels. White, blue, black, red. Oh, they're colors. Get this weird new line copy paste bug. But yeah, so it's not really reproducible. So the first time I got lucky and I only got the correct new lines. What am I doing? There we go. Okay, so I think that's the test input. 8 lines of stuff after the first line. 8 lines after the blank line. Okay. So I should be able to echo that test input. There it is. All right, what are we doing? We have colors, we have towels, the onsen. We have to arrange towels. And there are stripes on the towel. GGR. Okay, no mirror images. Got it. RGR. 2 RG and then an R. Okay. Then RGR and then GR. Okay. Okay. So these are the available towel patterns. The first line is the available towel patterns, and then we're trying to build these out of the comma delimited chunks from the first line. Okay. This is possible. Abwu is impossible because we have nothing that starts with a UB. This is basically another graph search problem, kind of. Because Are there any... They don't show you anything that has multiple ways that can be created. But theoretically, like in this example, if you have RGRGR and you have these available things, there are two different ways that you can create it. At least two. But do we care? Not really. We just have to find one. We have to find if it's possible or impossible. At least for part one. I don't know. Maybe for part two we'll have to find all the possible ways that you can create a pattern. So is B, BR. So BR, WRR. BR. Is there any other way that you can create this? So you have a B, R. There are two different ways that you can create this. So you can either do it the way that they describe here, or you could do B, R, WR, R. I mean, it's kind of obvious because they have BR and then you also individually have B and R. So anything that has BR has multiple ways that you can make it because you can create BR from this and that. Yeah, so possible prediction for part two, maybe they'll ask you to find like how many different ways you can create each pattern that's possible. Probably not. I'm almost always wrong with my predictions for part two, so it's probably something entirely different. Anyway, we have to... Basically, what we'll have to do is iterate through this list and see if that matches the initial characters of the desired pattern. So you could iterate through this and then say B matches. So we basically remove this from the string that we're trying to build, and then we try to build the rest of the string. Now, I think it does have to be like a graph search problem. I'm going to need a stack or something. So let's say you pick B and then you build that, and then you can't build the rest of the string. That doesn't mean that it's impossible, because maybe you could do a BR instead, and then maybe it's possible to build this. So you can't just give up. You can't just find a first substring that matches, and then if it's impossible to build the rest, you can't just give up. Then you have to backtrack and, try another initial substring. Yeah. So I think I can do this with a stack or a queue. I will attempt a stack because it's one less thing to keep track of. Okay. Day 19. Yeah, so I can't really use any of my matrix loading helpers. So I think I just have to read the first line and then skip a blank line, and then I don't need to save the rest of the lines. I can just iterate one line at a time and solve the problem on the fly. You don't have to load everything into memory. You just have to save the first line, at least, into memory. Okay, so we read that, and then we're going to read a blank line. I don't know what's going on with my USB daisy chain. So we have that, and then what do I want to name my variables? So we have available, and desired. Design would like designs. Available. Available is so long. do I just want to call it strings? Because strings is so generic sounding. I'm going to call it A. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to waste 5 minutes thinking of the perfect variable name. So we're going to split the string by commas and spaces. And that should be this, but in an array instead of one string. Split with an underscore. Okay, so it looks the same, but there are square brackets here, so this is actually an array. This is the number of things in A. There are 8 of them. That's right. Each string has a different length, but there are 8 strings in this array of strings. And now we have to solve the puzzle. So I think you need a stack for this. And what is going to be in my stack? It's going to be the length of the string that you've matched so far. That might be it. Just one integer. Do you even need a stack for this? Because basically I'm trying to emulate a recursive algorithm, but I don't have recursion. So I think I need a stack. This might be overcomplicated. Maybe I'm missing a way that you can just do it with a couple for loops, but I'm not thinking of how to do that. So we're going to have a stack. And it's going to be the length of the string that we've built so far. So it's like the longest string that we have. I don't know, 80? Probably not even 80 characters. 58. Yeah, I don't know. Let's try like 128. I really don't know how big this stack needs to be, but let's say that like you can build the string one character at a time, then maybe you need a stack that's just the number of characters. So 58, round that up to 64, double it just to be safe. Let's try 128. I have no idea if that's safe. Now, what is this printing? Skip the blank line. I think I have to read one more right before I start the loop. Okay, now we don't do anything with the blank line. I wanted to make sure I didn't try to build an empty string. Okay. Do I have a starts with? Starts and ends. I have ends with. I think I want a starts with helper function. With all ends with. Okay, yeah. I'm going to want a starts with function. But this is a char. It could just be a substring. Starts with, we're going to have a string, and we're going to have a substring, and this will return a Boolean. So, first of all, there's an edge case that we can guard against and quickly deny a match. So if the length of the substring is greater than the length of the string, there's no way it can start with a substring, because this, how would the substring be longer than the string that you're matching it against? And then the happy case is string 0 through len substring equals substring. Let's do some unit tests. Starts with, there we go. How hard is that to tab complete? Starts with A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D. That should be true. Okay, that's good. Should be false because the substring is longer. Okay, let's do a few more things like that. And then let's put all the falses together. Did I save that? Okay, so 4 trues and then 2 falses. Let's do some non-obvious falses. So what if like the first 4 characters match, but the last one doesn't? Should be false. Oh, yeah. What if it's just an empty string? Is that well defined? I would say it's true. Any string starts with an empty string. So I think that should be true. Okay. Yeah. Let's put that with the other trues. Okay. Don't really need those. I'm satisfied that that works. This is kind of hard. This is hard to do without recursion. I think if I had recursion, it really wouldn't be that bad. Yeah, because the tricky part is, what if you find like an initial string that matches, but then you can't build the rest of the string? Then you have to backtrack and try the other ones. Yeah, so I have to find everything that matches the beginning and push all of that onto a stack. Is there a way to do that without a stack and without recursion? I think I'm gonna try it. Okay, so what the fuck? That sounded so annoying. I have to like unplug everything in my USB daisy chain and try plugging it all back in. That's probably the only way to fix this, but for now I'm just toggling the switch. So I can iterate through everything in A and see if it matches, and see if my string starts with any character in that. But then how do I iterate through the rest? Like concurrently or in parallel? I feel like this would be really not difficult with recursion. I'm not going to say really easy, but not difficult. But I think I need a stack. Okay. Classic while true, figure out how to break later. Okay. So we're going to iterate through everything in A. A is like the array of available patterns. And we're going to find everything that starts with our string. And I probably don't want to modify. Yeah. So if starts with, we take the string first, but depending on which iteration we're at, we don't want to test the whole string. We want to test a substring of the string, starting with some variable. So I think we have to push 0 onto the stack. So the stack is going to contain, the stack contains the length of the substring of str that we've matched so far. And we're going to push 0 because we haven't matched anything to begin with. So stack pointer is 0. And then increment the stack pointer. Then in here, I'm going to pop. So we're going to pop I off the stack. S I think we have to we have to decrement first. Okay. So now we're going to check the substring from I to whatever the length of the string is. See if that starts with A, IA. IA is the thing that iterates over A. See, I'm still not sure about the variable name A, but at least the short one allows me to like associate some things with it and not type too much. I don't know, what do you call it? Strings? And then this is also string. Like, you can't just name everything string. That's worse. So I need the length of the string. It's gonna be that. All right, so if I didn't finish this thought, if it starts with, then we're gonna push that too, right? So we're going to push I plus the length of AIA. Right, because how much have we matched so far? Well, we already matched I from whatever the last iteration is. And then now we've also matched that plus the length of this thing that the rest of the string starts with. So I plus the length of the thing that we matched. Okay, so what does that do? I think we also need a base case here. So if I equals the length of the string, or is it going to be the length of the string minus 1? I think if it equals the length of the string, then we've matched the entire thing, and that means we can break out of this loop, and we've found a match. And if we've popped the whole stack, then we haven't found a match. Okay, so if the stack is empty, then we break, and we haven't found a match, so we just leave this at false. And then if I equals len string, then we did find a match. And then we can also break. What is this matching with? Okay. So will this tell us which ones are possible to build? 50. Right, we don't have that yet. So we can't put the breaks together because this has to be before we decrement the stack, and then this break at least has to be before this line. We could put it after this line, but then we're like interrupting the pop. But this one has to be after we pop I. So unfortunately I can't put all my breaks next to each other. That's okay. True, 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 false, true, true, false. So it ends with false, true, true, false, and everything else is true. Impossible, possible. Holy shit, I think that's right. So like true, 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 true. This is false. This is true, and this is false. So false, true, true, false. If I select the right thing. Okay, yeah, I think that's basically part one. We have to add up the answer, so we're just counting how many have matched. If matched, sum plus equals 1. So it should be 6 for the test input. Okay, and then I really want to delete these unit tests, but I guess I'll commit and then delete them. Yeah. Why don't I put them here with the function? I mean, they can't be inside the function, so I'll at least put them after the function. Okay, now they're saved somewhere. Yeah, and then try the real input. I don't know how long this is going to take. I might have found an infinite loop. Or is it just slow as shit? We got through the first 3 fairly fast. Oh, Jesus. Can I not even get part 1? Come on, man. I was proud of coming up with that recursion emulating stack algorithm. All right, what are we doing? Is it in an infinite loop? That seems to be an infinite loop. Do we need some kind of visited thing? I guess so. Because if we match up to a certain length and then go up and fail. Why did this work for the test input, though? Does it just not even have anything that matches the initial part? Starts with AIA. Let's visualize that for the falses. I'm interested in the falses. And then I need some delimiters in here. Just one. Okay. So BB, RGW. We do find a B. And then we match the second B. And then we can't match. So eventually we get to there. But then at some point we also match a BR. Like we've backtracked. So how am I getting into an infinite loop? I think I need to keep track. I think I need one more thing in my stack, and that's like how many of the A's have I tried so far? Okay, so let's try pushing one more thing onto the stack. It's going to be 2 by stack cap. And we're going to push... Now we have to push a vector onto the stack. So we're going to push 0, 0. And then when we pop... 0. And then I'm going to call this IA nut. It's the initial IA to start searching from. And then this loop is going to start from IA nut. And then when we push, that doesn't work. Because when I push, I want to start the next one at 0. Can I increment this when I pop? It's not the usual way of working with a stack, but I feel like it might just work. Pop. I don't know how to do this. How the fuck did I get the test input right? Ubwu. Okay, Ubwu is easy because there's nothing that starts with a U. So I'm not surprised that I got that. But then how did I get this one? If I have an infinite loop with the real input. It's like we find a match for that. And we push it. No, yeah, because how does this get into an infinite loop? We push all of these first. I don't know, was it an infinite loop? Or is it just extremely slow? I'm gonna undo most of what I just did. Because I think what I had was correct. Okay, and I want to print that. But I don't want to print this because that's too verbose. If I find a match, maybe I'm okay with printing that. Is this just like an NP hard problem? Why don't I also print I? Okay, I would like to have a delimiter there. I think I want the number first. In Vim, I have such a hard time of like swapping things around in a comma delimited list. I always end up like putting an extra comma somewhere and then I have to go back and delete it. I feel like I should be able to figure out how to do it, or maybe there's a plugin that helps with things like that. But a plugin for something like that feels like overkill. I think I just have a skill issue. Okay. Okay, we get a true. And that's like 70 lines into the log for the first match. Basically, we start iterating at line 11, and then we find a match at 71. So that's like 60 stack iterations. I don't know if that's more or less than what you would expect. And then we do the next line, and we find a match. Then we find another match. And then apparently, am I in an infinite loop? So I think I can probably kill this. Like, what do we end with here? Like 57 GR. I'm at line like 78,000. I need to fuck with my opacity. This is too much. Okay, that's a little bit less opaque. So you've got a lot of 57 GRs, but then like the stuff 57 GR RRG. 57 GR RRG. So I think I need like a visited array. Which stops me from retrying things that I've already tried. And that's going to be... Also, I want to make sure I don't overflow my stack capacity. I've got to be overflowing my stack capacity, right? Or maybe it's also in an infinite loop. So I'm never checking this. And then I push, and then I push here. So I think I want to do something like if s pointer greater than or equal. Don't need parentheses. Stack overflow. This is a literal stack overflow. So that's good to have. Yesterday I was getting things that crashed, and I was like, I don't know why it's crashing. It was because I forgot to check if my queue ever overflowed. So somehow that goes into a loop. It's just pushing as much as it pops. If you keep pushing onto the stack and don't pop as frequently, then you'll overflow. But as long as you're popping as much as you're pooping, popping as much as you're pooping. No, as long as you're popping as much as you're pushing, then I guess I don't run into any stack overflows. Okay, but I do need like a visited array. And that's going to be I by NA. And if I've already tried to check if IA matches at a substring starting at I, then I don't want to check that again. So that should guard against infinite loops. And that's going to be len str by NA or transpose. I don't know which way is better. False. Yeah, I really don't know whether to transpose this way or the other way. But it's going to have the same total size. It's either rectangle with this aspect ratio or rectangle with that aspect ratio. Oftentimes one will lay out memory in a way that's more efficient to address, where you have more cache hits in the cached memory, cached RAM. And if you transpose it the other way, it's not going to be as efficient. For this, I'm not really sure which way is best. Okay, so here, if visited, right now, which one? Len str. So that's going to be I by IA, continue, and then visited IA equals true. I think that should stop infinite loops. And then I don't think I need to add anything else onto my stack like I was thinking about a few minutes ago. I think I just need a visited array. I can see it's putting longer strings, so I think we made it through the list. Okay. 367, let's try it. I could retest the test input since I've changed my algorithm. But yeah, you know. After the first wrong answer, you don't have to wait very long before you can submit again. So if you start to try a lot of different wrong answers, then they start to give you longer timeouts before you can try again, but I wasn't at that point yet. There we go. Every possible option. So now we just don't break when we find a match. We keep finding all of the matches. I don't... $16. Yeah, so I think it doesn't sound that hard unless this is going to be super computationally expensive. This is what always gets me. I frequently read part 2 and I'm like, oh, that's not hard. And then I do it on the test input and it's fine. And then I do it on the real input and my code just runs and it's running and it's running. And I'm like, oh God, I've been running for 5 minutes and I don't have an answer yet. So yeah, I might get hit with something like that. Hey, and that was my prediction. I was right about my prediction. I was like, they're going to make us find every possible way to build the pattern, not just find the first one and see if it's possible or not. Okay, so let's clean up the logging first. Not that. Okay. And then copy part 1 and make that part 2. And call that from main. And this should just, I want to go back to the test input and not change anything, but just see if it runs twice. Okay, it runs part 1 twice. Well, you know, one of them it says it's part 2, but it's the same code from part 1. Now, we just don't break when we find a match. I think that's it. I think we continue instead of break. So this is part 2. I don't want to accidentally edit part 1. Okay, so I think we continue instead of break. Because we don't need to search, we don't even need to attempt pushing anything else onto the stack. That's something I should cover in a unit test. What happens if you see an empty string? I'm pretty sure I get that right for my starts with thing. This is day 19. Okay, so I want to continue, and then I want to add up the sum up there. Probably could have done this for part 1. Probably didn't need like an if matched, add it later, plus equals, there we go. Okay, will that give me 16 and will it not be an infinite loop? That's not good. Do I need to reset visited? Let's try it. Voila. Okay, let's try the real input. I don't know how long this is going to take. Part 1 took a while because I had so much logging, but maybe it's also just slow. Will that be an infinite loop? Okay, it does take like a few seconds for part 1. Now, am I in an infinite loop? While that's running, I'm going to get another water. I've got a new seltzer water here that I've never tried before. It's Bubbly brand. The flavor is Strawberry Sunset, strawberry, kiwi, pineapple flavors, and other natural flavors. I like strawberry. I think kiwi is fine. I don't know about pineapple flavored water. I'm glad that's the last one out of the 3 that they listed. So, this might be pretty bad. It kind of sounds like too much for a seltzer water. I think it's okay. Not sure yet. Okay. I don't think I can reset all of visited. I think I have to reset a slice of visited. Let's see which string we get stuck on. The very first string. I think I get stuck on the very first string. That's not going to be right, because I did not even get the test input right with this algorithm. It's going to be too low. Too low. Let's go back to the test input. What if you don't continue? What happens then? Nothing should happen. Actually, this might overflow because I is the length of your string. And then you're not going to push anything because this is going to be an empty string. So I think if I don't continue, it shouldn't do anything, except maybe crash because of this. 16. I don't think it's this easy. Still stuck on the first string, I think. I want to not call part 1 because that takes like a few seconds. We're getting through strings again, but I think it's not going to give me. Isn't that what I submitted? Yeah, it's the same thing again. So how do you find all paths? I don't really need to find all paths. I just need to count how many paths there are. Can you do that with breadth first search? And how do you not do infinite loops? I think visited is not right. I think you want to try all these, push all that. Then you really don't want to backtrack. I'm going to take this out because I never overflowed my stack. Do I need to store other things in my stack, like the initial IA to start iterating from? Kind of thought about that, but then it didn't seem to make sense once I started to write the code. Because then what do you push? Is this like a permutation problem? Not really, because you can use each entry of A multiple times. But yeah, I don't know. What if? So there are permutations and there are combinations. And one of them allows duplicates and the other one doesn't. So I think it is permutations. Oh no, it's order. But can you think of this as a number in some base? Like a number in base NA, and each digit controls like which thing of this you're building up the string with. Will that work? Because then I think I can search through things more easily without worrying about stacks and worrying about infinite loops. I think I'm going to try that. So I'm not going to have a stack. I might just try to redo part 1. Okay, so I've taken out all my logic. I'm just reading the input, and I have a vector of A's. And a string and the length of the string. Okay, so let's make a number in base NA. So I think I have base, do I have base 3? One of the earlier days, I did something in base 3 because you had like 2 operators in part 1, so that was binary, and I could just get a binary number with bitwise operations. But then part 2, they gave you a 3rd operator. So I thought of that as like a number in base 3. So I made a function to convert to base 3, and then I don't remember which day that was, but I want to steal that and generalize it to base NA. What is my NA anyway? If it's just 10, I mean, that would make things easy. It's not going to be hard to have a general base converter because I have base 3. If I can do base 3, I can do any base. So what is NA? 447. That's too big. Okay, so I need a general base converter. Yeah. Get grep base. Okay, that was day 7. I had a base 3 converter. (2024-7) main base. Okay, here's a base 3 converter. And yeah, I'm going to generalize this and put it in utils. Base n. So you're going to take a number and you're going to take a base. Base n. How many digits do I need? Let's just hope I don't need more than 32. I might need more than 32. It's like, how long are these little strings? And then how long are the big strings? The big strings were never longer than like 64. And we probably get some single character short strings. Yeah, we have like a single U and a single G and okay. So we do have some single characters. So maybe I need like base 64 in the worst case scenario. Or not base 64, but 64 digits. So wherever I have my hard-coded 12s as a capacity, that's going to become 64. That should really be a parameter. And then wherever I had 3, we're not converting to base 3, we're converting to base n. So it's that easy. Endianness? Actually, yeah, I still don't give a shit about endianness. Okay, so you could optimize this. You could like not build up your entire number, just still match part of the string. But I'm going to build my whole base n number, and that part's not going to be optimized. But then I'm going to build up my string out of the digits of this base n number. And if at any point I find something that doesn't match, I will abort that early. So this will be somewhat optimized. It's not going to be as bad as it could be. Let me go back to day 19. Let me delete some of these buffers because I don't really care about day 16 anymore. Or 17. Or even 18. Okay, that's a little cleaner. All right. Patterns, design, I don't remember what to call these things. That's why I couldn't name this variable. Okay. So we're going to make a number in base NA. And then use its digits to build up a string out of the entries of A. And as we build up that string, if it matches the string that we're trying to create, that's fine. But if we ever find a mismatch, then we can break out early. Whoa. Okay. And I guess I still want starts with. Okay. So digits. Yeah, and this is going to be inside a loop. How big is this going to have to be? Let's make this 64-bit. This might be worse. This is probably going to be less optimal than part 1, but I can't think about the stack algorithm. If I could do... Yeah, I don't know if I could do a recursive algorithm. I might still get stuck with the infinite loop problems. But this is the only way that I can think about it. Stacks are just too much to think about. Okay, so that's going to be base n of I. Yeah, and then we're going to build this up. And I want to know the length of the string that I've built so far. Okay. So then len is going to get incremented by I guess I need both iterators. How about I make this a for loop? It's just 64 because that's hard-coded, but let's pretend that I don't know that here. And then if I fix my base n converter to give me any number of bits, then this will just work. I feel like this is going to be way too slow. Yeah, I don't have a good feeling about this. I think it's going to work for the test input, but it's not going to scale for the real input. I kind of deleted my original attempt at part 2, but there really wasn't much modification from part 1, and it didn't work. Like, I just changed this break into a continue, and then added up the sum here, and then tried resetting visited, but that didn't work. It gave me an infinite loop. So if I have to go back to that, I think I can repeat what I did. It's going to be some entry of A. So it's going to be A digits I dig. Can you dig it? And then we're going to increment the length by that. And then we're going to check if the string starting at the length starts with AI. And if it doesn't, then we haven't found a match and we can break. I think not only will this not be fast enough, but like I think I'm going to overflow a 64-bit number. if not starts with string len through len str AI, then we're going to break. Break. Yeah, break. I think this was okay the way I had it. Didn't need to invert the nesting. Okay. And then if len equals len str, then we found a match. Right, because it does start with, and then we've matched the entire string. Sum plus equals 1, and then also break. And when we break out of this loop, we will continue. No. Size digits. Okay, so if we found a match, we're going to set matched. And then if we get to the end of this loop, and we found a match, then we can break out of this loop. Okay, does that work for the test input? Let's try the test input instead of the real input. $120. So that has to work with 64 bits. I think that part is fine. I think we can still return a vector of I32s. Or is it still going to complain about types somewhere else? Okay, it is super slow. Is this an infinite loop for the test input, or is it just incredibly slow? All right, what happened? While true. While true. I think if the length what the fuck is going on? Because what if you can't find a match? Then how do I break out of... Yeah, it's infinite looping on the first one that's impossible to build. So... do I know when I get to that? There's like an upper limit to I. It's going to be the number of characters to the power of NA? Or is it NA to the power of the number of characters? Yeah, because all of these strings are different lengths, so that makes it difficult. Does this trim? This doesn't trim my digits, so I can't just check the size of the digits. If I is greater than NA to the power of that, then I think it's impossible. Oh, yeah, my breaking, if matched, okay, yes, I don't want to break. That would be part 1, basically. If I take that out, I think it's part 2, but I think this is going to be way too slow. It's slow for the test input, and it's wrong. 380. I'm making negative progress here. I had the right answer, but then it infinite loops for part 2. So, of course, that's not going to work. 367. It's not that far off. If len equals break. So I still increment I, right? Like I'm not double counting things. All right, let's print the matches. No, because I'm not actually building a string. Did you? Oh. I think I see what's happening. I'm ignoring like the rest of the digits. And then that causes me to double count some things. So I think endianness matters. Do I put the smallest digit at the beginning? Can I fix this by flipping the endianness? I want to find like the first non-zero digit. I think I have to trim this. I think if I trim this, then I can just iterate through all of the digits. So let's do that. 0 through I. Yeah, and then this is already iterating through the actual size of the digits. So the padding with zeros was the problem, basically. And then if I dig non-equal n digits minus 1, then we don't count that because there are more digits that we need to use to build the string. If we matched everything and we built the whole string and we've consumed all of the digits, then that's really a match. Is that gonna work? 1083. Okay, that's out of scope. So still incredibly slow. 84. That's a lot worse. One I out. I think +1. It's just getting worse. Something like that. Because in this loop, the last digit might be a 0. Not always, but sometimes. And then it breaks. Still terrible. I have no idea if this base converter is right anymore. So do I need unit tests for this? No. Yeah, this doesn't work. Because numbers should be padded with zeros. Should it be the other way? That's not good. Because, like, what if it's just 0? What if the whole number is 0? Then I should return a single 0. What the fuck? I out. I don't know what I'm doing. It seemed like I was so close with a stack-based algorithm. Do I go back to that? I feel like I should be able to make this work. It's just that it's so slow. It's terribly slow. And I can't even get it to work for the test input. Okay, so we set I out. So this thing is set, but it might be 0. But then this is not inclusive, so do I need to add one here then? I was so close before I started trying to trim my base n number. Well, that's because I changed this logic too. What about this? And all the rest of the digits have to be zeros. All digits I dig plus 1 through the end are 0. No, the stack algorithm is so much better than this, because this is going to repeat a lot of work. You're going to convert a number to a base n number, and then it's not going to match. And then you're going to try other numbers that have a similar substring of digits. But like, you should know that it's impossible for them to match. I think I have to go back to the stack algorithm. Okay, I think I'm giving up on that. I'm going to take part 1, copy that to part 2 again, because part 1 was so elegant. But then what do I need to do to fix this, to find all of the matches without getting into infinite loops? Okay, I'm going to take out the stack overflow check because that never happened. Don't want to sum up the matches there. I want to sum up the matches here and not break. You can continue. Actually, if you don't continue, this is not going to do anything, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe it's beneficial for performance to continue. Sum plus equals 1. And this finds too many matches. Or what was the issue with this? The issue with this is that I don't reset visited. But that's what got me into the infinite loop. So that's 8. can I just move this visited check somewhere else? Because sometimes it's like the difference between tail recursion and the other kind of recursion, and it can make a difference. So I think I just didn't have infinite loops for part 1. And there's 16. But if I take this out, I get into infinite loops with the real input. I realized that backtick jumps previous, and then sometimes I want to go like 3 jumps back, so I started using Control O. But like I just realized recently that Control O can take you to other buffers, other files, and that's like blowing my mind, and it's usually not what I want. I want like jump to other places, but in this file, and if I want to switch files, I have a different key binding for that, so. Okay, so yeah, let's try that with the real input. I'm pretty sure it's an infinite loop. It was for part 1. Like, which string am I on? Does it loop on the very first string? Yeah, it loops on the very first string. Is that saving a log? Okay. That's what I tried to submit before. It's kind of what I was expecting. 1057. Too low. What was my part 1 answer? 367. Like, at least I'm getting more than the part 1 answer. But I'm still not finding all of the matches. I feel like I need to make this visited array. I need a more complex set data structure to keep track of which sets I've seen before. And I can't just use the current position in the string and then the index of like my alphabet. I don't know if, I still don't know what to name these things. I can't just use these two numbers as my visited set. I think I need the current position and everything from A that I've used to build my string so far. So not just IA, but like the last IA that I popped off the stack to build this up. But then how do I save that? It's the problem of finding all paths. Or traversing all paths, but not getting into an infinite loop. And not just the shortest paths, but all paths. Well, like, I want an answer. I don't want you to ask me. It's not Dijkstra, because I don't care about the shortest path. So without a visited set, like that's kind of what I tried. But then I get into an infinite loop. But I'm not really doing a breadth first search then. So I wasn't really thinking about breadth first search when I wrote this. I kind of just winged it and got something that worked for part 1, and then I tried to modify it for part 2. What if I try to implement breadth first search, but do it for this problem? Okay, so this is a stack attempt. Okay, let me delete all of my code again because I don't want to like get trapped into accidentally doing that again. Breadth first. Well, breadth first uses a queue, not a stack. Does that help? Okay. I don't think it matters if I do. Does it matter if I do breadth first or depth first? I prefer depth first because stacks are just slightly easier to work with. So the thing that I'm pushing in the stack is going to be the index of A. I feel like I'm just going to end up rewriting the same thing that I tried again. Do I want to push anything here? So when did I do BFS before? No dots. Pretty sure we just had a graph problem yesterday. This was BFS. Doesn't matter. I don't know. It's really not much harder. A queue versus a stack. Well, I tried a stack, and that didn't work, so what the hell, let's try a queue. Let's get rid of the stack stuff. 128. I don't know. The queue might end up being bigger than the stack. Again, I think that's the only thing I need in the queue. I don't want a visited array. And what am I popping? Okay. Okay, so a lot of this doesn't make sense. So we want to have some end condition. If we find an end, we're going to increment our sum because we found a path. But that condition, it's not going to be this. IA? It's not an index of I. No, it is an index of I. I think I need a string in my queue. No. Is my stream okay? I can't watch it on my other computer. It just crashed. looks okay. Just had to refresh. Yeah, I think I need two things in my queue. I need an index of A, and then I need the length of the string. So let's try that. Maybe that would work with a stack too. That's kind of what I tried before with a stack. I tried putting an extra thing in my stack, but then I couldn't think about it. I got confused, and I tried something else and eventually got part 1. But that's not working for part 2. So we're going to have two things in here. It's going to be match length so far and index in A array. A is the array of strings that we're using to build the longer string. Okay, so we're going to push 0, 0. I think that should be okay, actually. Yeah, that would not have worked with only one thing, with a Q vector as opposed to a Q matrix. Okay, then I have to unpack. So that's the length. And then the index in A is the next thing that we popped out of the queue. So this is the length of the larger string that we've matched so far. And then this is the index in the vector of small strings. So I think the end condition is if the length equals the length of the string that we're trying to build. Then we've built the whole thing, and that's a match. So sum plus equals 1. I'm going to try not having any visited conditions. Now we're going to iterate through the next things that can be pushed. I think I want this to be IA not IA. Then what do I do with this? That was my dilemma from part 1. If I put this in my stack, then what do I do with it? We pop. And then where do I check if I have a match? Do I check here or do I check inside the loop? I think I have to check here. And then if it doesn't match, then I continue. And then I probably want to increment this length. So this is really like length not. Okay, now I'm going to check if the rest of the string matches this thing from A. So, and if it doesn't, I skip the rest of the loop. I continue. So if not starts with string len 0 through the end, if that starts with A, IA not. And if it doesn't start with it, then I continue. Otherwise, we're in the happy path. This is going to be plus that, the length of the smaller string that we just matched, because if we get to here, it must start with this substring. And then can I push everything, or do I only push things, like do I check starts with again inside the next loop? I think I don't have to, because then they're going to get checked up here. And what am I iterating? IA in 0 NA. This is all just junk that I copied over. So I think I just unconditionally push. Yeah, there's no bounds checking. I don't think I need to check anything here. Push. So Q end is, what is this going to be? I don't know, but then we increment the Q end. What did I push initially? Just a bunch of zeros. Which 0 means what? Nobody has any idea. Okay, the first 0 is the first number that I push is the length, and then an index. So the length is that. And then the index is what I'm iterating over, so this. What does this do? Is this going to count up some number of matches? I hope so. This adds to a sum, and then I print the sum. So let's see what that does. It probably has syntax errors. Let me do this with the test input. If I'm not, yeah, I have to switch back to the test input. Len 135 let. That's at least 2 of my issues. Part 2. Did I name this? Still have it called part 2 stack, but then there's another commented out copy of part 2 stack somewhere else. Okay. So that did not count all of my matches. It found the first match and then broke out of the loop somehow. Push. I mean, it should push all of them. It doesn't just continue. Where do I continue? I only continue if I find something that doesn't match. So why does this not find all of them? I don't have a visited guard. I could probably continue here. Shouldn't make a difference. All right, I've got a bunch of junk in here that I want to comment out. Or just delete. I mean, it's already commented out. V0. Okay, we'll have a backup just in case. And let me delete all this junk. I'm going to leave visited there because maybe I'll have to do something with visited. Okay, so we got a stack-based solution for part 1, and now I have a stack-based, now I have a queue-based solution for part 1, but unfortunately I was trying to do part 2, and I failed at that. So why does this not find all of the matches? There's no visited guard. And this should push everything. really running part 2? I'm really running part 2. Like, I'm doubting my sanity here. Okay, this is using a queue. Six. Adding up my sum in the right way. While... I mean, if I don't have this condition, my queue is going to explode. Or do something that's not good. So I push this on initially, and that might not be a match. So this checks if there's a match. I don't think I can get rid of this condition. Any more starts with checks that I add, it's only going to reduce my answer. But my problem is that my answer is too small. I need this number to be bigger. It should be 300 something for the test input. No, 367 was my answer. Yeah, this should be 16. Was my digit-based solution working? Pretty sure I was looking for this, but I was running the test input, so that doesn't make sense. I don't think I got 16, though. And it seemed way too slow, even for the test input, so I did not like that digit base n solution. Okay, what matches am I finding? That's not what I expected. It found 6 solutions for this one. But it found no solutions for any of the other lines. So that is totally unexpected. Test input 0 and 7. So 0, so R or BR. So it could end in R, which is one of my words, or it can end in BR, which is another one of my words. I'm calling these words now. I think that makes sense. And we're trying to build a sentence out of words. That's how I should describe this. I was thinking like we're building words out of an alphabet, but an alphabet doesn't make sense because some of these are multiple letters. But building a sentence, which has no spaces, out of words, I think that's the good way to think about this. So if I could go back and rename my variables, I would have called these words and sentences, but it's too late for that. So why? This should be buildable. Why did I not find that? I think like the starts with is wrong. Pop. See, when I pop, I actually remove. So this is like a whole match. Then we also have partial matches. I should at least get a few partial matches. Not even on the first one? Less than or equal? Nope. Let me try to get the first one. Okay, so here we're just going to exit. And I should be able to build this. There are multiple ways to build this, actually. B would work initially, and BR would also work initially. So why do I not find any of those? Okay, that's an idea. I think I can't just push this. I have to push a whole vector onto the queue initially. Is that going to do it? For IA and 0 through NA. Which one is the length? The first thing is the length. So that's always going to be 0. And then this is IA. This is actually 2 statements. So don't let the one-liner fool you. I need braces for this. That's going to bite me eventually. I'm going to be like, why doesn't this do what I think? Okay. NA can be 32-bit. What the fuck? 154. The length of the string can also be 32-bit. Okay, now we found a couple hole matches for the first line. Let me try the rest of the lines by getting rid of that exit. And 16. Okay. Now, will this be an infinite loop? This might be an infinite loop for the real input. That's what I ran into with part 1. What is this? That somehow I went back to day 18. That crashes. I think I have a queue overflow. Like, what else could it be? Is that printing? Okay, that's fine. Might want to remove this too, but let me at least get rid of the most verbose logger. And then let me increase my queue capacity. Just make it real big. Yeah, I think that's an infinite loop. I try to stack. I try to queue. Is this an infinite loop or is it just slow? Let's make it way big. Okay. Am I getting partial matches? Whoa. That's weird. Really? Nothing? It's an infinite loop already? Is my test input still working? Why did the queue is just huge? I think I made it too big. I think I have to check for overflow. What if I allocate my queue once outside? Outside the loop. That will be not so terrible for performance. Allocate once instead of reallocating on every loop iteration. Doesn't change my memory usage, but it improves the time complexity. Can I make it big again? It shouldn't hurt now. It'll be like a little slower for the first iteration just to allocate once. Why? Why does that make it slower? Why the fuck does that make it slower? I don't know. I don't understand that. Am I copying a huge array somewhere? It's 2 by Q cap. Anyway, I think it just doesn't need to be that big. Okay, so the test input, kind of slow, actually, but it's okay. All right, so that's finding partial matches. 418. Oh, this is like the index in the array. I want to see the length too. Because if the length approaches some number, I know I'm making progress. Like this is a string of length 48. Oh my god, it's crawling. Do I have something that works but is just slow as hell? That would be so embarrassing after like hacking at this for 2.5 hours. Now I have like an optimization problem that I don't even know how to solve. Okay, can I decrease the queue size even more because I don't know why this has an impact on performance. I think I had this yesterday. Did I have an overflow check? No, I didn't do that yesterday. Day 16. Pretty sure I had an overflow check eventually on day 16 in one of my later iterations. Okay, so I want this. That overflows like immediately, so at least I know. And then I can make this not way too big, but just big enough. I don't know why this has an impact on performance. I could just make this a growable vector. I have references now, so I can make growable vector types. This is still going to overflow, but after like 2 minutes of... So this needs to be fairly large. I'm going to start quadrupling it instead of doubling it. And now, like, there's a perf impact. Why? Why is there a perf impact here? Does this like copy the whole array or something? It shouldn't. It should copy this whole array, but not this whole array. This is painfully slow. Here, what if I put the starts, what if before I push, I put the starts with check? What if I just have a copy of the starts with check? Let me try that with the test input. And then, unfortunately, I mean, I'm just going to double my work, but I need to have this somewhere, at least for the initial push. So if not starts with, this can just be 0. It can be the whole string, actually. The string is getting copied. Can I make these references? Would that... I mean, but why does the queue size impact performance? That's what I don't understand. Okay. So that's going to be a more optimal initial push. And then I don't need it here, but I have to put something inside the loop. If not starts with len IA. But then why am I... Like, other than logging it, I'm not... Why is this in my queue? Maybe I can try making my queue matrix a queue vector. Now I'm getting the wrong answer for the test input. What the fuck? Len. Oh, because now I'm not... This isn't right. Len AIA. Type checking is a pain. Just treat 32-bit and 64-bit integers the same. That's not right either. Am I pushing? I think I need to push a different length now. It's getting worse. It's getting further from the correct answer. Oh my god. The thing is, like, this doesn't even sound like a hard problem. I don't know how I'm having so much trouble with it. Len. Okay. Not. I don't think that's right. No. I think it should just be a copy at this point. I could make them the same variable. 19. Overcompensated. What the fuck? I don't know what's going on. I think I have to give up here. I had it working. And then what did I start changing? Oh, yeah, I thought putting the starts with check inside the loop before I push would improve performance. And I stand by that. Okay, so I can just shift all of these by the length of the current string, and that should work. Then I can do the addition out here. But didn't I have that before? And like we've already done this check now. Right here. So that should be a match, right? And then I want to go back to what I was pushing, which is like the previous length, not including this thing. But I think I tried this and it wasn't right. That's exactly the same as what I just did. Or it's equivalent to what I just did. But why is it not right? Should be 16 of those, but I'm getting 19, right? That's too many to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. It scrolls too weird. I have to look at the log. $19. So I am finding 19 of those. Why am I finding more than one? So which strings am I? Which ones am I getting wrong? I can step through that with a test input. Callie, come on, you can't be up here. Come on. I need I need a new line so I can look at the log. And let me drag this over so you guys can see it. Okay, so did I find... That's... -1. That's not a whole match, so it doesn't really matter. I think I'm over popping. Pop. How the fuck? I never subtract anything. I mean, I do initialize it to -1s. Anyway, I think there are 2 ways to build the first thing, right? 2 different ways to build the first thing. That's correct. I'm getting 2 rows of asterisks here, 2 whole matches. The second thing, BGGR, can only be made one way. Why do I get 2? It should not be less than or equal. I changed that just randomly because I was like, I don't know what else to try. And then I forgot to change it back, even though it doesn't make 16. Okay. And I'm going to be back at my initial problem where part 2... Well, I moved the starts with check, so it might perform slightly better, but I think for some reason the queue size. The other thing is that my queue is a matrix, but it only needs to be a vector. No, I am doing something with IA now. So now I do need it to be a matrix. Maybe I can avoid array expressions like that. Maybe that's having a performance impact. Okay, 16. I'm not optimistic here. I've been struggling a lot tonight, so it's doing something. It's moving a lot faster than it was before. So finding any whole matches, not yet. Is the length going up? Not really. Okay, so how would I optimize this? So you don't... GWWRG. You can make an initial scan over each sentence to see if your word appears at all in that sentence. So like GWWRG does not. In fact, it's not until sentence 64 that that first word appears. How about this thing? This one doesn't appear in any of my sentences. BRB, same with that. It only appears in the first line, but not in any of the sentences. So like a lot of these words are dead, and you could sort of like prune those out of the things that you're iterating. I want to try that, but I should also like call it tonight because it's starting to get late. I don't want to overdo it here. I don't know. Will that be enough to optimize though? It doesn't seem that hard. Like I have helper functions to see if something exists as a substring, if there's a needle in a haystack. Let me make a backup. So this is going to be V1. Gets the right answer for the test input at least. That's more than I can say from 30 minutes ago or whenever, an hour ago maybe. I was toiling away at the base n digit conversion approach, which is way too slow, and it wasn't even working. Speaking of that, I can get rid of that approach. So was my issue from I got part one so easy. Was my issue with a part one approach just that I used a stack instead of a queue? Is that the only thing I had to do differently? I mean, I don't know if this is going to work. I still might have an infinite loop, but I think I know something that can be optimized here. So let's try it. So instead of A and NA, we're going to have like A in. Or, yeah, A in, NA in. And then we're going to prune those per sentence. On each line of the rest of the input, we're going to have a different pruning result. Because like that's never going to help you match a string. Do I have to do 2 passes? I think I can over allocate and then trim. So I can do that. And then we're going to start it at 0. And for everyone we find in the sentence, we'll increment it. And we just have to make like 1 pass per word in our dictionary of words. So it's a little extra checking, but it's not bad for like an endless breadth first search. So I think this really is going to speed this up. This is kind of like a straightforward optimization though, and it doesn't sound that hard. Advent of code problems should be pretty hard at day 19, so I'm worried that it's going to be harder than this. NA in. We're going to use this helper function called scan, which just, no, that's set. We're going to use index. I get scan and index mixed up. We're going to look for a substring and a string. And if this doesn't find it, it returns -1. So if it's positive, we know it exists. If it's negative, it doesn't exist. So if index, I think it takes the big string first. ANIA. If that's less than 0, do nothing. If it does exist, then we're going to push it into our pruned dictionary of words. Prune sentences, no, prune words. Okay, so if it does exist, we're going to push it. So NA plus equals 1 and A NA equals AN IA. Is that going to be any faster? 102. In. I don't know. It's kind of hard to judge progress. No whole matches yet. What if I don't log that? It's like the only progress indicator that I have until it finds a match. So let's have that, and then let's also see the pruned size so we can see how much of an improvement this is. Okay, so we went from 447 words to 68. Like, we were never going to push any of those anyway, but we were checking at every iteration if we could push them, if it starts with. So by pruning those... yeah, I don't know. It's still too slow. So I think I need something even more clever. But I don't know what that is. Can I pass references? Like, starts with doing most of, is that the bottleneck? And why is my queue, why does the size of my queue have an impact on performance? Maybe I can do these array expressions differently. Zero. I mean, this one's outside of the loop, so this one really shouldn't matter. This really shouldn't make a difference, but I don't know. Maybe my interpreter is funky and these things are less efficient than they should be. Maybe if I have simple scalar expressions, it'll be better. Did I increment the thing? I have to make sure I remembered to increment the thing. The beginning or the end or whichever one it is. Like right here. I want to make sure I don't just like delete that part of the line. So yeah, that did not pop. I need to queue big plus equals 1. That's very important. This one increments. With a queue, you're always incrementing. With a stack, you sometimes increment and sometimes decrement, depending on whether you're pushing or popping. I don't expect that to make a difference. I have no progress here, so I'm going to kill that. Semicolon. Okay. Should be like the same thing. Do I still get the right answer for the test input? No. What the fuck? Was it the pruning that did that, or the array expressions that did that? Len and IA. So I'm like reslicing the string every time. What if I save that in a variable? Is that going to be... well, I'm getting the wrong answer, so let me focus on that first. 0IA. Was it the pruning that fucked me up, or was it the array expression? I think I'm too tired to see what my mistake is. It should be like a fairly obvious, stupid mistake. That's a whole lot of matches for this. Why? Let me try the pruning first, because I feel like that's more likely to be the mistake. I just looked at the array stuff pretty closely. So A-N-N-A-N. Like, what if I just copy instead of pruning? It'll be slower, but it should give me the same answer. So I fucked up the pruning. Why? A-N-N-A-N. Index. Do I have these arguments in the right order? Well, if I pruned it down to 0, I would get 0. A-N-I-A. Oh, this is off by 1. Okay, there we go. Okay, test input. Let's try the real input. I'm not expecting much. Like, it's not even through 1 line. How many lines do I have? 400. And I got a queue overflow. At least I got to the queue overflow faster. I want to see some sign of progress. Like that's going, it looks like it's fast, but is the number going up? Is it getting closer to 40? Is it going in an infinite loop? I have no idea. I really have to call it here. It's been 3 hours. Maybe I'll get it off stream, but I can't just toil away at this all night. I've got to feed my cat. I kicked her out of here. She came in and jumped up on my desk when I was like already frustrated with this. So I just got her out of the room and closed the door. Like the number, I think it's gonna finish with the first line eventually, or overflow my queue. Might just overflow my queue after running for 20 minutes. So the first line is like 40 characters. Nope, overflowed my queue. Yeah, it's 49, so we were not quite there. I think the queue has to be huge. It should not have an impact on performance. Like maybe upfront 1 time, it has to allocate something big. What is this, like 1 billion? That's not good. Do I even, like, can I just cut my queue size in half? Only using it for logging and for calculating the length. But I should be able to shift my length and then not have the second thing in my queue at all. I really need to call it, but I'm gonna keep at this for a little bit. Okay, so like I kind of had this length shifting, but I don't remember why I changed it. I think it looked less complicated this way. Let me go back to the test input. It's really struggling. Okay, that's correct for the test input. It's really struggling to allocate an array this big. And if I don't have a 2 there, it's really going to simplify my life. At least I can change it to 1, and then I should be able to get rid of that rank entirely and just have a vector instead of a matrix. All right, now what am I doing with the length? I have to shift all of my lengths by 1, kind of, if that makes sense. Where do I do the initial push? Changed it to 1, didn't I? Okay, yeah, so I can't do anything with IA. That entry doesn't exist now. So this doesn't exist. Then len is just a copy, and I should be able to delete that variable entirely. Consolidate those variables. That doesn't exist, so I can't log it. That should be equivalent, I think. $143, double semicolons. 162, this variable does not exist anymore. Okay, right answer for the test input. I think I can clean some things up more. Len 0 is just len underscore. And then I don't have, it's all the same variable now. Still 16. So I should be using half as much memory now for the queue, because it's only 1 by queue cap and not 2 by queue cap. And now I should be able to get rid of this rank entirely. So instead of a 0, just get rid of that index. That should be the same thing. Really shouldn't make a difference. It's going to be the same memory. As a 1 by n array is the same memory as an n length vector. But like when you subscript it, it saves you a little bit of math. You don't have to like use both indices. There's only one index. Okay, so does this help me at all with a real input? I doubt it. So if I get a length of 49, that's the whole first string. But this is way too slow because I have 400 lines of input, and even if I take out logging, it's still too slow. I don't know. I have to try removing logging. But I also want to see progress. So, what if I only print improvements in the length? All right, that's less verbose, but I don't think it's any faster. Because it's going to backtrack a lot. Like it gets up to 34, but then it might have to backtrack all the way down to like 0 and start again. Do I ever print? So if it finds a hole match, it should print something. I just hope I'm not in an infinite loop. Okay, I did get up to 37 before. Did not get up to 38. So getting rid of the logging did help. But this is still too slow. I don't know. So I pruned for the whole sentence. But you could also have like a matrix of prunings, if you know what I mean. I feel like it's not that much of an optimization, so I don't know if it's really going to help. But you could say like, now I'm kind of working on the last 10 characters. You could say, well, the last 10 characters contain even fewer words than the sentence as a whole. And then there are less things that you have to search. But I feel I'm concerned that that's not clever enough. Because if I can think of it, it's not that clever. If we're building the string from front to back, actually I don't want index. I want index back, because that scans from the end of the string. So I want to find like the last occurrence of my word in the string. Another very straightforward thing to optimize is what if I make my strings references for starts with. I kind of have it all over the place. So, oh no, I actually can't do it because I can't make a reference to an index of an array yet, or a slice. Yeah, there are multiple things here that I can't reference. Yeah. On the other hand, there is a slice that I repeat a lot. Is it a lot? Like I'm in a loop here, and then I recompute this slice. I think I could save that. I don't know if it's probably not going to make much of a difference. String remain equals string len through len string. Yeah, I think the issue is that I'm doing a lot of string comparisons. You could like make one pass over the string for every word in your dictionary and save all the indices. Then you still have a scanning problem. But you're just doing integer comparisons. You're not doing like whole string comparisons. I really don't know if it's going to save much. I don't know if the thing that I just did saved anything. I know we got up to 37 and 38 fairly quickly because that's the log from the time before. 37 was the max. It never got to 38. I don't know. I've got to call it. Like, I'm not out of ideas, but it's getting late. I'm getting tired. The question is, can I get this without cheating, without just like looking at somebody else's solution and porting it to syntran? I still have ideas, but I can't work on it all night. Then I'm going to be too tired to work on tomorrow's problem. So like the pruning was very effective. We reduced our set almost by a factor of 10. There are 447 input words on the first line. And in the first pattern, only 68 of those appear. Like a factor of 5 to 10. Yeah, I still have ideas, but I've got to call it. Should I commit? I don't know. If I get part 2, I'll commit. This is not fast enough. I can clean this up at least. Still gets the right answer for the test input. I don't know. I'm really tempted to just keep hacking at this for a while. Because like a very straightforward optimization is we're pruning, but like your words, let's say you have WR, and then maybe that's not a good example. Let's say you're looking at B, and then you're looking at this the word B and this sentence GBBR. So the initial occurrence of B is here. And then the last occurrence of B is there. So if you're ever looking at something less than the first or greater than the last, you know it's not going to match. So that can save you a lot of work with string comparisons. And then there's no scanning. If it's within that range, you do have to scan. But if it's outside that range, you don't have to scan at all. You just have to do 1 or 2 quick integer comparisons. And like we're already scanning to do the pruning. So, or we're already indexing to do the pruning. So we can do an index to find the first occurrence and then an index back to find the last occurrence, which is kind of like indexing on the reverse string with the reverse substring. Let me make another backup. I should just commit or like learn how to use stash in a more advanced way. Stash is hard though, because then how do you keep track of what you've stashed? I think it's probably just a skill issue for me. really doesn't need to be so big. Most of the second is just allocating that array. Okay, so we already index. So that's going to be the minimum position. Come on. Max. There we go. Okay. Amin NA. We're just setting it, and this comparison is Amin NA less than 0. This less than 0 is not part of that. Okay. And then if it exists, we're also going to get the max. And that's going to be index back. Index back. Okay. Why does that one not have an underscore? Whatever. But this is max. Okay. So we're getting the position of the first occurrence of A and the position of the last occurrence of A. And then we can simplify this one if A min IA, so that starts with, that's not starts with. Not equals 0 means it doesn't start with that respective word IA. Now that should still run, that should still be correct before I optimize the rest of it, because then there's another starts with check inside the loop. Still 16, that's good. All right, now the other starts with is more complicated because we're still gonna have to scan unless I save everything in between the min and the max. That would be like another level of optimization. Let me just clean up a bunch of this. It's time. I've made backups. I don't need to have all of this junk comment. Pushing. Okay. Now, we still have to call this eventually, but we can add a couple guards that will save us from having to do any string comparison. So if len less than the min, that's a continue. Or if it's greater than, I think I have an off by 1 error. Maybe just greater than. Should one of these be or equals? Okay, that's still right. Can I make any of these more strict? I think this is wrong. I think greater than was actually correct because min doesn't really have an exclusive of an upper bound thing. Yeah, so that's wrong now. What if I change that one? I think that's going to be wrong too. Yeah, so I think this is the only correct thing. And then, is it any faster? We can try to race. This one's almost done with the first line. It's nowhere near done. You know, there are 400 lines, so it's nowhere near done in total. But maybe this is still right for the test input, right? Okay. If this doesn't work, I might be out of ideas. You can also save every index. It doesn't seem to be that much faster. You can also save every index between the min and the max. But then, instead of scanning for a string, you're now doing a bisection search to see if you're at one of the known string start locations. The progress in terms of the length, it gets much slower the further you go. So this is kind of a bad progress indicator. Okay. Those are all the straightforward optimizations that I can do. I don't know, 43? It's definitely a bad progress indicator, but is this faster? It's really not fast enough. I have 400 lines to go. Okay, it's been too long. It's been over 3 hours. I have to call this. Yep. All right, that was part 1. I haven't figured out part 2. And I don't really have a clear idea of how I could do part 2. So I might have to look at the subreddit for this one. I'll let this run for a while, see if I at least get the first line. If I can get the first line, and I think it's too slow. Even if I got the first line right now, you multiply however long this has been running by 400, it's not fast enough. How long has this been running? Well, one of them has been going for 13 minutes. The other one's been going for 2 minutes. So 2 times 400 is 200. That would be like 3 hours if it finished right now. But it's not even at 44 yet, so I don't know. Definitely going to be more than 2 minutes for the first line. Yep, I've got to end it here. Thanks to anybody who tuned in. I really appreciate it. I think I'm not going to bother with a raid. I'm just too tired. So, yeah. I'll catch you next time. Bye.